You're standing on the first tee, feet planted, you make what feels like the same swing you've made for 30 years, but the ball comes up short, again. And you blame your age, you blame your driver, you blame the ball. You never once looked down at your shoes. Here's the truth I wish someone had told me 10 years ago. The single most overlooked piece of equipment in your bag isn't even in your bag. It's on your feet, and the wrong pair is quietly bleeding 15, maybe 20 yards off your drives without you ever feeling it happen. The industry never told you this because there's no marketing budget in traction. Nobody sells you a dream about an outsole. They sell you foam, comfort, and a color that matches your polo, while the thing that actually transfers power from the ground into the ball gets ignored. I'm going to show you a documented ground force study from a biomechanics lab that proves where your distance actually comes from. And I'm going to hand you a fix that costs about $15, works this weekend, and works even if your swing is slower than it was at 50. I remember the exact round it clicked for me. Pebble adjacent Muni, cold morning, wet fairway, and I slipped just slightly on my downswing on the 4th hole. I made solid contact. The ball went nowhere. That little slip was the whole story, and I'd been living it for years without knowing, so stay with me. Because by the end of this, you're going to walk to your closet, look at 5 specific pairs of shoes, and understand exactly why they've been costing you strokes. Let me start with the shoe almost every senior golfer I know is wearing right now. The soft, cushioned, sneaker-style spikeless shoe. The kind that feels like a slipper the moment you put it on. Something like the plush foam models from Skechers Go Golf, or the softest spikeless offerings that flooded the market over the last decade. You know the ones. You bought them because your feet hurt after 18 holes, and these felt like walking on a cloud. I get it, I bought them too. Comfort is real, and if your feet are killing you, nothing else matters. But here's what nobody at the shop mentioned. That thick, soft foam midsole that feels so good under your heel is doing something terrible to your swing. It compresses. Every time you load into your trail foot at the top of your backswing, that soft foam squishes down and absorbs the energy you're trying to store. It's like trying to jump off a mattress instead of a hardwood floor. Think about that. When you push against the ground to start your downswing, you want the ground pushing back. That's basic physics. But a spongy midsole eats that push. The energy goes into compressing foam instead of driving the club. Biomechanics researchers have measured this for years. In a proper golf swing, a good player pushes into the ground with a peak vertical force of roughly 1.5 to 2 times their own body weight. Let me make that real. If you weigh 200 pounds, you are momentarily driving somewhere around 300 to 400 pounds of force straight down into the turf. That force is what launches the club through impact. Now put that force on a soft, unstable platform. The foam collapses, your foot rolls, and a chunk of that power never makes it into the ball. Independent testing has shown that unstable footing can cost amateur players real club head speed, and every single mile per hour of club head speed with the driver is worth roughly 2 to 3 yards of carry. Lose 4 or 5 miles an hour to a squishy, slipping platform, and you've handed back 10 to 15 yards without changing anything about your swing. That's the betrayal. You bought comfort, and nobody told you comfort and power were fighting each other in that midsole. So the first shoe to reconsider is the ultra-soft, pillow foam spikeless model. Not because comfort is bad, but because too much soft foam turns your feet into shock absorbers when you need them to be anchors. But comfort foam is only the beginning, because there's a second problem hiding right under those same shoes, and this one is even more expensive. Let me talk about the worn-out spikeless outsole. Here's the trap. A spikeless shoe uses little rubber nubs or dimples molded into the sole instead of replaceable cleats. When it's brand new, that traction is honestly pretty good on dry ground. That's why the reviews love them. That's why every golf publication ranked them so highly for the first season. But those nubs are rubber, and rubber wears down fast. After about 30 or 40 rounds, those little grip points flatten out. They round off. They polish smooth against cart paths and parking lots and the walk from the car. And unlike a spiked shoe, you can't replace them. The traction is gone, and there's no fix except throwing the whole shoe away. Here's the part that made me angry when I figured it out. You can't see the wear. A flattened nub still looks basically fine to your eye. The shoe still looks new enough to keep wearing. So you keep playing in a shoe that's lost half its grip, and you have no idea because the failure is invisible. I tested this on myself. I had a pair of spikeless shoes I loved, probably 2 seasons old, maybe 60 rounds on them, felt fine. Then I played the same course 2 weeks apart, once in those old shoes and once in a fresh pair with real traction. Same driver, same ball. On a slightly damp morning, the old shoes were letting my back foot slide open on the downswing just a hair. I couldn't even feel it in the moment. But the fresh pair gave me back 4 to 6 yards on my average drive and, more importantly, tightened my dispersion. Fewer big misses, right? That's the second shoe to stop using. The spikeless pair that's more than about 2 seasons old. It's not the design that failed you. It's that the grip wore out silently and nobody warned you there was an expiration date. And if you want every piece of this laid out in one place, the shoe rankings, the exact replacement cleats, the fit notes, the ground force drill written out step by step, I put it all together in a guide called Drive More, part of the Full Swing series. It's the honest buyer's guide the industry never handed you, built for the golfer who wants to play smarter instead of just spend more. You'll find the link in the description below. Now here's where it gets worse. Therefore, we need to talk about the third category, the fashion-first golf shoe. The one designed to look like a street sneaker. Over the last several years, the entire industry chased the sneaker crowd. They wanted younger buyers who'd wear the shoe to brunch. So the design priority shifted from traction and stability to looks and street appeal. Flat soles, minimal grip, styling first, function second. And who got left behind? You. The player who actually needs stability because your balance and your fast twitch strength aren't what they were at 40. The industry chased the 25-year-old with the 110-mile-an-hour swing and forgot the 65-year-old who needs every scrap of ground force he can get. Let me be specific about why this matters more for us. As we age, 2 things happen. Our balance gets a little less certain, and our ability to generate speed drops. Both of those problems have the same solution, and that solution is a stable, grippy connection to the ground. When your footing is secure, you can trust your lower body. You can push harder, you can rotate faster, without the fear of slipping that makes older golfers instinctively hold back. That instinct to hold back is a distance killer, and most guys don't even know they're doing it. When some part of your brain doesn't trust your footing, it quietly throttles your swing. You decelerate, you steer, you protect against a slip that your body senses is possible. Give that same body a locked-in platform and the throttle comes off. So a flat, fashion-forward sneaker shoe with a slick sole isn't just neutral. It's actively telling your nervous system, don't trust the ground, and your nervous system responds by taking speed away. The third shoe to stop using is the street-style golf sneaker with a flat, low-traction sole. It looks great in the clubhouse. It's robbing you on the tee. But maybe you're thinking your shoes have actual spikes, so none of this applies to you. I thought that too. And that brings me to the fourth pair, which fooled me the longest. The spiked shoe with worn-out cleats. This one is sneaky because you did everything right. You bought a real golf shoe with replaceable soft spikes, premium brand, FootJoy, Adidas, whatever it was. You spent the money, you thought you were covered. Here's what almost nobody does. Replace the cleats. Soft spikes are plastic. The manufacturers themselves generally recommend replacing them somewhere around every 15 to 20 rounds. Read that again. 15 to 20 rounds. Most golfers I know have never replaced a cleat in their life. They wear the same set of spikes for 3, 4, 5 seasons until the little plastic legs are snapped off and worn flat. I was one of them. I had a pair of premium spiked shoes I was proud of, and I bragged about them, and I hadn't touched the cleats in probably 4 years. When I finally flipped them over and really looked, half the spikes were worn down to smooth plastic stubs, and 2 were completely broken off. I'd been playing on what was essentially a slick shoe and calling it a premium spiked shoe. A full set of replacement soft spikes from a company like Soft Spikes or Champ costs somewhere around $12 to $18. It takes about 10 minutes with a little wrench tool, and it restores your traction to basically new. Think about the math on that. You lost yards and hit loose shots for years because you never spent $15 in 10 minutes. That's the industry betrayal in a nutshell. They sold you the expensive shoe and never once made a real effort to remind you the most important part of it is a consumable that wears out on a schedule. So the fourth shoe to stop using is your own spiked shoe with the original, never replaced cleats, still worn smooth on the bottom. You don't need a new shoe, you need new spikes. Hold that thought, because we're coming back to exactly how to do this. Now the fifth one, and this is the one I see on more senior golfers than any other, therefore it might be the most important. The wrong fit shoe. The shoe that's technically fine but doesn't fit your foot, so it moves. As we get older, our feet actually change. They spread, they widen, the arch settles. A lot of us are wearing the same size we wore at 45 when our foot genuinely needs a wider fit now. So we cram into a shoe that's a touch too narrow or too short, and here's the killer. Our foot slides inside the shoe during the swing. Follow the chain. If your foot slides inside the shoe, it doesn't matter how good the traction is on the bottom. The sole grips the ground, but your foot slides on the insole and you've lost the connection anyway. All that ground force leaks out at the one joint you never think about, the space between your foot and the shoe. This is why fit is a performance spec, not just a comfort spec. Brands like Echo and New Balance build genuinely wide options. FootJoy sizes in true wide. A shoe that locks your heel and lets your forefoot spread without sliding is worth speed you can measure. A loose, sloppy fit is a slow leak you can't see. The fifth shoe to stop using is the one that's the wrong size for the feet you have today, not the feet you had 20 years ago. So there they are. 5 shoes stealing your distance. The Pillow Foam Comfort Shoe, the worn-out spikeless pair, the flat fashion sneaker, the premium spike shoe with dead cleats, and the wrong fit shoe that lets your foot slide. Now, I promised you this wasn't just going to be a list of things to throw away. Because if you're like me, you're not made of money, and the last thing you want is somebody telling you to run out and buy $300 of new shoes. So this next part is built specifically for you, the golfer who already owns his shoes and does not want to spend big to fix this. Everything from here forward you can do with what's already in your closet. First fix, and it's the cheapest one in golf. Flip your shoes over right now and look at the traction. If they're spiked, count how many cleats are worn smooth or broken. If more than a couple are shot, buy one set of replacement soft spikes. Match the thread system. Most modern shoes use the fast twist system, and it'll say so or your shop can tell you in 10 seconds. $12 to $18. 10 minutes with the little wrench that often comes in the pack. You just restored the single most important performance feature of your shoe for the price of 2 coffees. Second fix, the lacing. This one is free and almost nobody does it. If your heel is slipping inside the shoe, you're leaking force even with perfect traction. There's a lacing technique called heel lock or the runner's loop. Use that extra top eyelet most shoes have that you've probably never used. You feed each lace up through the eyelet on its own side to create a small loop, then cross the laces through the opposite loops and pull tight before you tie. That cinches your heel down and stops the sliding. Look it up, take 2 minutes, and you've locked your foot to the platform for nothing. Third fix, check your fit honestly. Late in the day, when your feet are at their largest, put the shoes on and make a few practice swings. Does your foot slide toward the outside edge on your downswing? Do your toes jam the front? If your foot is moving inside the shoe, an aftermarket insole with a deeper heel cup, something from a brand like Superfeet for around $40 to $50, can lock your heel and transform a sloppy shoe into a stable one without buying a new pair. That's a fraction of the cost of new shoes, and it targets the exact leak. Fourth fix, and this costs nothing. Match your shoe to the conditions. If you own both a spiked and a spikeless pair, wear the real spikes on wet mornings and hilly courses where traction actually gets tested, and save the spikeless for dry, flat, cart path days. Most guys grab the same shoe every single time out of habit. Simply choosing the right one for a wet day protects you from that invisible little slip that flattens your drives. Those 4 fixes together cost less than $60, and most of them are free. And they'll recover more distance than a lot of the club upgrades people spend $1,000 chasing. But I told you at the start there was one thing, one documented finding that ties this whole story together and hands you back the distance the industry quietly took. So let me give you the secret finale, because this is the part that changed how I stand over the ball. For years, the whole conversation about distance was about the top half of the body. Wrist hinge, shoulder turn, lag, all of it. Then biomechanics labs started putting golfers on force plates. A force plate is a sensor built into the ground that measures exactly how much force your feet push down with and in which direction through the entire swing. The research that came out of that work, particularly the ground reaction force studies championed by biomechanists like Dr. Scott Lynn and the teams working with the Titleist Performance Institute, showed something that flipped the old thinking on its head. The best, longest, most efficient players don't just rotate, they push. They drive vertically into the ground, that peak force of 1.5 to 2 times body weight I mentioned, and they time that push to happen right before impact. The ground pushes back, and that upward force is a massive, largely ignored source of clubhead speed. Here's the quote from that world that stuck with me. They call it using the ground. The elite players essentially jump against the ground, subtly, and land into a braced lead leg through impact. That vertical force, that push and brace, is a documented, measurable contributor to speed, and it is completely dependent on one thing: traction. You physically cannot push 1.5 times your body weight into the ground and get it back if your feet are slipping or sinking into foam. The whole mechanism dies without a grippy, stable platform. That's why this footwear conversation is not a small thing. The single biggest free source of distance for an aging golfer is learning to use the ground. And the shoe is the only piece of equipment that connects you to it. The industry buried this under 30 years of upper body swing tips and comfort marketing, and the biomechanists preserved the truth on their force plates. Now you have it. So here's the drill, and you can do it this weekend on the range for free. Take your normal setup with a solid, well-fitted, good traction shoe on your feet. Widen your stance just slightly, maybe an inch wider than normal, for a more stable base. Now, as you swing down, I want you to feel like you're pushing the ground away from you and standing up tall into your lead leg through impact. Feel your lead leg straighten and brace, like you're pushing up out of a chair. Not a jump you can see, just a firm push down and up into a braced front leg. Start at half speed. 10 balls, slow, just feeling the push into the ground and the brace of that front leg. Then let it build. What you'll feel, if your shoes are gripping, is the ground giving you speed for free. It's leverage. And it works beautifully for a slower, older swing because it doesn't require you to be flexible or fast. It just requires you to push against something solid. But you cannot do this drill in a squishy foam slipper. You cannot do it in worn smooth cleats. You cannot do it when your foot is sliding inside a shoe that doesn't fit. The drill exposes bad footwear instantly, because the second you really push, a bad shoe slips and the power vanishes. That's the whole point. The shoe is the foundation. Fix the foundation, then use the ground, and you get back yards you thought age had taken forever. I tested this against my own old habits. Same driver, same range, same afternoon. My old comfort first, worn down routine versus fresh cleats, a heel lock lacing, and that ground push drill. The difference wasn't subtle. My club head speed came up several miles an hour, and remember, every mile an hour is 2 to 3 yards. My contact got more consistent because my base was stable. And the biggest thing, I stopped subconsciously holding back, because for the first time in years, my feet felt planted and I trusted them. That trust is the thing they can't sell you and can't take from you once you know. A stable platform tells your body it's safe to swing, and a body that feels safe swings faster. So let me put a bow on all of it. You didn't lose those yards because you got old. You lost them because the ground you were standing on betrayed you. One soft midsole, one worn nub, one dead cleat, one sloppy fit at a time, and nobody in the business had any reason to tell you, because there's no profit in reminding you that the cheapest part of your gear is the most important. You just took it back. For the price of a set of spikes and a lacing trick and a drill that costs nothing, you're the kind of golfer who checks the receipt. Who doesn't take the marketing at face value? Who would rather spend $15 on the right thing than $1,000 on the wrong one? That's exactly the golfer this is for. And that's exactly the golfer who ends up out-driving guys half his age who never bothered to look down at their feet. If you want the full breakdown, I put together an honest buyer's guide that ranks the shoes actually worth owning by traction and stability instead of hype, with the exact replacement cleats, the fit notes for wider feet, and the ground force drill written out step by step. It's the guide the industry never handed you, and it's linked below for you to grab. Now do one thing for me in the comments. Flip your golf shoes over, look at the bottom, and tell me, how many rounds are on those cleats, and had you ever replaced them before today? Just type the number of seasons. I read every one, and I promise some of you are going to shock yourselves. Leave that comment now so I know how bad this problem really is out there. And if you're done being marketed to like you're somebody else's customer, come join the rest of us who refuse to be overcharged and who are figuring out how to play smarter as we get older instead of just spending more. Subscribe and stay with me, because next time I'm breaking down the one driver setting nearly every senior golfer has set wrong, the little adjustment that adds launch and carry without touching your swing, you won't want to be standing on the tee without knowing it. We just covered why the wrong shoes cost you distance, but here's what I couldn't fit in. Inside the Honest Fairway Club, I give you the full ground force footing fix, picking up right where I stopped. And you can ask me your question directly, a real person. Me answers you myself. You belong here with us. Just point your phone's camera at the code on your screen, and you can cancel anytime with one click. If this helped you today, do subscribe and stay right here with me. I have plenty more simple golf tips waiting for you, so let's keep working on your game together.